Hi, hello, how are you? I'm an insane chook, and welcome back to another episode of Fumble and Fall while I draw. Uh, as we all know, this has no actual... Fumble and Fall is just what I call it, but like, there is no cohesiveness to anything that's happening. So... And I'm not really good at drawing pigeons. And... sometimes the best way of figuring out how to draw a pigeon is looking at a bunch of pictures and also like figuring out what makes their shape. So we can see that I've drawn a bunch of circles everywhere and with a lot of different pigeons before I finally figure out what I want to draw. So yeah, that's how we're doing it this time. Yeah, so that was all I wanted to say before we start the story. Me and pigeons, we have a very rocky, history, I guess? I mean, sure, it was only one pigeon that happened to. And I do love those little birds. I love watching them. I always feel bad when I see their feet, like, the missing toes or anything. They're very adorable, and I'm always I feel bad because I always don't have food for them. And they're all just like constantly pecking the ground looking for food in the city. And I just constantly feel bad about them. They're very cute. They've got a very like spaced out look in their face. They're very smart. They're very smart for all those pigeon lovers there. I have a terrible history, and I'll just let you all know it was an accident. I didn't mean to. Well, the things that happened to that bird, I didn't mean to. But also that pigeon was the dumbest pigeon I have ever had the misfortune of ever coming across. Because it's one of those, it had, gosh, I don't know how to phrase it, but you know how in horror movies you have that one character that does everything that is against survival, and as you're watching them, you're just constantly going, like constantly taking notes of how they're just not built to survive. That was that pigeon. So like, like we would take it from several perspectives here. My perspective was that I was panicking. I didn't want to be late. So I ran past two pigeons who, terrified, flew into a bush. You think that'll be the end of it. And also they're a lot faster, so they flew into the bush that was so much further ahead from me. And so like, yeah, like on normal circumstances, I wouldn't have touched any of the birds. Yeah, so the fact that a pigeon came out of that bush as I ran past was just baffling. And so as I ran, in the most freakish coincidence ever, my God, like I was running, and the pigeon flew under my foot. It flew under my foot. My foot was in the air, about to go down, and the pigeon flew under it. The pigeon flew under my foot. I didn't think I could do or say anything that would capture how ridiculous that was. Like, I didn't know there was a pigeon in the bush. Nobody knew there was a pigeon in the bush. I don't know if those two other pigeons that flew away from me. It wasn't even past me, it was away from me, because I was just running, and they were already way ahead of me. It wasn't that I was directly running into them or anything. They were like off towards like the right hand side, and then they flew into the bush that was also further off into my right hand corner of my peripheral vision, because I was not running towards a bush, mind you. I was planning to run straight past everything and towards the crossing, and the pigeons, they flew into the bush, and then they came out, and then it flew under my foot. And that's the biggest freakish sort of thing ever. And I want to say, felt like stepping on a giant marshmallow. Don't like that. It confused me when I was running, because it's like suddenly stepping on something soft instead of like concrete. It was like, what? My brother and sister were both behind me at the time as I was running. So, and they didn't say that the bird died. No. They saw that bird continue to fly away. And that's just how it went. I don't know if the pigeon's fine or not. They always jokingly say that maybe it has internal damage. I don't like that thought. I don't like that thought at all. I like those birds. They're very cute. So this isn't intentional. This was all an accident. And a lot of horrible sort of coincidences that happen. And now let's change our perspective to the birds. It's a horror story. It's a horror movie. Hey, just like the terrifying killer is right behind you in the distance, and then you all run towards it's like the forest or the bush or a safe house, and you bump into your friend, and who's also just as skitterish as you guys, and logic dictates you would not run in towards the direction that your friends are running from. That's just dumb. That's just stupid. That's just not okay. You're not gonna survive a horror movie by charging straight into the danger that your friends are running from. That's just stupid. It's just, God. Like, from a bird's perspective, that's just stupid, even. I think that bird was the dumbest thing ever. My God. And now this bird lives on in my family's memory as the funniest thing ever. A goddamn joke, really. And it gets brought up occasionally. And I'm always struggling to defend myself, because it's just like, that wasn't my fault. That bird was stupid. Like, usually I think pigeons aren't that dumb. That pigeon was the dumbest thing I've ever come across. And it's not my fault. Like, seriously. It's not my fault. That's all I'm saying. That's all. And I don't think we can elaborate about how much that was the pigeon's fault. It, like, sure, there's a thing about victim blaming. This isn't, I don't know. But this is more, this is where the victim is so dumb that it's just like, I don't know how you could have thought that this was a right decision in any way. This feels like insurance fraud. Like, it feels very much like insurance fraud. I'm getting insurance fraud from a bird. And I've seen very smart birds. This is the dumbest one I've ever seen as a whole. And it's not the only time I've witnessed how weird pigeons can be. Some pigeons are, as I've said before, are very stupid. This one, this is another pigeon that I saw in a completely different country. It was in Hong Kong. This one wasn't quite as stupid, but it was a very hilarious thing for me to watch this pigeon. Because, like, I think it was like a road cross section or something. There were a lot of people, basically the light went off and everybody was walking to their destinations. And there was this pigeon that was on the ground, and I think for an animal without much facial muscles to like depict such complicated emotions, the amount of emotions I saw flashing across this poor bird's face as it analyzed the situation it was stuck in, because like it was in the middle of a cross section, like intersection where all the people were just walking, and it could see that in all directions it was basically trapped, where lots of feet are coming towards it, and there was some, like, it was literally coming from every single direction, left, right, front, back. It was in the middle of an intersection. And so I would say that it was kind of amusing watching in this pigeon and like staring at all these feet and going, where should I go, where should I go, and then for her to suddenly realize, like, this is the funniest thing, the pigeon actually it was so funny. It, like, looking at its face, it was a whole deal of it realizing it was trapped. Like, absolutely coming to the understanding that it was trapped between a lot of feet. And then suddenly coming to the realization that it has one more direction that it can go to flee, which was up. Like, it was so funny, because it just remembered that it could fly. There's something funny about watching a bird suddenly realize that it has wings. Trapped in a situation where all directions are just terrible, but there is still up. And for an animal without facial features, or muscles really, in its face, you could see the cogs in its brain turning for those few those few seconds or less, and realizing that I can go up. Like, the whole realization, it was very funny, because when you look at a bird, and also like when they start realizing that all directions are bad, you can see them like slowly panic, really. And then when it realized it can go up, it basically visibly relaxed and then shot into the sky. It was kind of funny. I never expected a pigeon to be very very expressive, This one was so expressive. I loved it. It was so funny. It was so much smarter than the other pigeon, and I love it. Now that our funny little story is over, I would like to be honest again and say I'm not uploading this. It's not going on Patreon, it's not going on Twitter, it's going nowhere. It stays in this video, it doesn't come out, and I am happy with that, because I am not proud with how it looks. Good day, good night. This is an Insane Chook signing off. Bye now.